and welcome to one of the first cooking episodes of Geek Eats Cafe. Yay! If you follow our Instagram and or my Twitter, you will know that we cooked this a while ago, and I just wanted to add some stuff in before we watch the video, because the whole point of these are to talk about culture and food. And we're talking about culture and food through video games. So I can't do this slide, I'm sorry. So since we're talking about video games are obviously a completely man-made and manufactured environment. They're not naturally evolving environments. They didn't come up through history. Any history that a video game has is completely made up fantasy situation. Even when you're basing a game off of real world events or real world cultures, you're still manufacturing it in a way that it fits the narrative of the game. That being said, there's a lot that can be said about a culture based on their foods, the things that they value in their foods, the things that they're eating the most of in their food, and that kind of a thing. So what I wanted to try to do is look at Elder Scrolls Online, look at the foods that they have, because there are people who are incredibly obsessed with Elder Scrolls Online. There are things like Wikipedias out there and whole websites dedicated to recipes. There's actually an Elder Scrolls Online cookbook that you can physically go and buy and possess and own. And so Elder Scrolls kind of has made a bit of a impact on the real world as well as the game world. It's one of the more popular online games that you can play. They're constantly coming out with upgrades. I play Elder Scrolls and enjoy the hell out of it, actually. And, you know, just to kind of justify the fact that I want to play video games, I've been incorporating archaeological concepts into my gameplay, which, sure, we'll go with that. But archaeogaming is an actual field of archaeology. It's new, it's developing. It has a lot of... I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, it's a new and developing field of archaeology. There's a lot of room there to kind of like explore and investigate. And by looking at video games, we can actually learn a lot about humans today, real humans in real life. And a lot of that comes down to, you know, looking at the concepts in the game. Now that I've said that like 5 times now, we decided to do a couple different recipes for dinner that night because I like having well-rounded meals. I don't like to just eat like a main dish and no sides. So the meals we went with were... I have to go look this up real quick. Now, one of the first things we decided to make was the Firsthold Fruit and Cheese plate. Yeah, Firsthold Fruit and Cheese plate. Mainly because I had to buy grapes for the main recipe, and I was just like, well, we got grapes and we got cheese. So now, when we make these recipes, we had to do a lot of like interpretation. There we go, words. Because if you look at the game itself, if you just look at the recipe of the game, and maybe I can like clip it in there, you know, you go here and it says fruit dish, Firsthold Fruit and Cheese plate. Tells you what the level is, how many CP you need for it, and the benefit that you get for it. Increases mass magicka by blah for blah, 6-second cooldown. And I think all of that changes depending on your level of provisioning. So doesn't really tell you much, and sometimes it'll tell you what you need to make the dish. I have no idea what's happening here. Oh, sliders. Anyway, this is why you should not go to the websites. Anyway, so with the Firsthold Fruit and Cheese plate, the only thing you need in-game to make it is cheese. So once you have cheese, you can make this in-game. But it's a fruit and cheese plate, So there's probably more than just cheese on the plate. So we took some interpretations of our fruit and cheese plate and we added some bread and some hummus and fruit. So we had grapes and cheese and bread and hummus, and that was kind of nice. It was a nice little appetizer, kind of like a plowman's lunch kind of thing. Which is another thing we'll kind of look at, is the inspiration of some of these foods or the real world interpretation of some of these foods, because Firsthold's not a real place. It exists in the game only. It's inhabited by high elves for the most part. High elves are clearly not a real thing in the world. So what does that tell us about high elfin culture? That they have this very simple but hearty dish of fruit and cheese. Does it mean that they're, vegetarians and they don't eat meat, but they will consume dairy? Does it tell us about the importance of dairy and milk products in their, in their culture? Because, maybe since they don't eat meat, they have to get their protein from cheese. What other cultures are there like that have this same kind of food habits, where they'll consume a lot of cheese, but they won't consume the dairy and the meat coming from the animals, and how do they do that? How do they eat? That kind of stuff. What does it mean that they're eating fruit? What kind of fruit? It would be nice to know what kind of fruit would go on a fruit and cheese plate, or what kind of cheese it is. The game is a game. It's not going to go that in depth into it. You can get online and there's all kinds of lore and stuff, and I think next time I do one of these for Elder Scrolls, I'm going to try to make the dish a little less scattershot and try to focus more on one particular culture, because when you deep dive into the cultures, you learn more about the specifics of their foods and that kind of stuff. Like with the Khajiit, for example, we know that they like very sweet foods, like they prefer, which is really weird if you think about it, because cats don't have the ability to taste sweet things. Like, they don't get a rush from sweets. I don't know if they can't taste it or if it just doesn't do anything for them. But like humans, we're like, ooh, sugar. But so this is a trait that they've decided to give the Khajiit people, is this desire for sweet foods. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, so the first dish we did was the Firsthold fruit and cheese plate. It turned out really yummy. We liked it. We ate it. It was good that we did that because it took us forever to cook everything else. So our main dish were the Grape Glazed Bantam Guar, or Guar. We actually looked it up to see how it was pronounced. It is pronounced Guar. Now, this one's kind of fun. I have made a very similar recipe before. Like, to make this recipe in-game, you need to have grapes and you need to have poultry, keeping in mind that the game only has, like, white meat, red meat, poultry, fish. I think it has large game and small game. Anyway, those are your meats. It's not, like, deer, venison, pork, that kind of stuff. It's not that. So what's interesting about the guar and the Bantam Guar is they're the kind of like reptilian looking chicken things that you find around. I've seen them mostly on Vanderfell in the Morrowind area. I know that they probably pop up everywhere else. If you've ever seen like the fire chicken pet that you can have that runs around with you, that's a guar of some sort. I think it's called the fire guar. I don't remember. Anyway, I don't care either. But a bantam, or bantam, there's no H there, it's just bantam. So the bantam is an actual type of chicken in the real world. It's a fancy chicken. They're very fancy looking chickens, and they have like really crazy plumage and stuff. So it's really funny to me that they would name this guar, which they have no feathers in game. They're kind of like, they're like lizard birds, I guess. But then name it after a real world bird that has crazy feathers. That's interesting. Also, if you kill the guar, the meat that you get from a guar is poultry. So they're poultry. There you go. You're classified them as poultry, which was great. They're also smaller birds, so I chose to interpret that as not a full-size chicken. So what I got were, after looking it up again because I completely lost my ability to word I got Cornish game hens, and those are nice because you can go to Aldi and get them in a pack of 2. So I got 2 Cornish game hens, which is perfect. Really, if you think about it, I mean, you go back into medieval times, if you don't know, we have bred the chicken up. So the chicken used to be a very small bird. The eggs used to be very small as well, which is why quail eggs were a thing that we now look at and are like, why would you bother? Well, it's because chicken eggs weren't really that much bigger. Today's chicken egg is the equivalent of 2 to 3 eggs from the Victorian and back further. So medieval through Victorian times, the eggs were very small. So if you take a modern egg and you look at it, depending on if it's like a large or a jumbo egg, that egg actually is the quantity of 2 to 3 eggs from the past. So consider that when you're looking at the birds that you buy, you know, your chicken that you buy at the store, and you see that nice big fat bird. Well, that bird's probably 2 Cornish game hens worth of meat from back in the day. So getting the Cornish game hens actually put us closer to the size and the type of meat that would have been eaten at that time, as much as one can do in modern times with minimal effort. I promise it gets better. Anyway, we also bought green grapes, which are not the Jezebel grapes. The Jezebel grapes look like they're supposed to be purple, but here's the thing that confuses me about them is if you go in game and you walk around the markets and stuff and you look for the grapes in the baskets, they're always green, and then you pick the grapes up and they turn purple. So I guess you could have either. It doesn't really say. I think it does actually tell me that I have to have Jezebel grapes, but there's no other kind of grape in game, so it's not like, and I'm sure I'm saying Jasmina, I think it's Jasmina grapes. But anyway, so that was our Grape Glazed Bantam Guar, and again, it's a recipe, well, not the guar, but the chicken is a recipe that I've made in the past. It's very tasty, so I had an idea of how to make a grape glazed chicken dish. Interestingly though, where I learned to cook that particular recipe was from a biblical cookbook. So, and biblical, I mean, it's from the Bible lands. It's actually called The Frugal Gourmet Keeps the Feast, I believe. And it's the recipe itself is based off of Middle Eastern cooking traditions. So our grape glazed Bantam Guar is Middle Eastern in its conception, and we did kind of take that in with us. We had to alter a couple things because we didn't have the herbs and spice. Like I don't think we had we didn't have black sesame. No, we didn't have something, and so we used nigella instead. And then I also added fenugreek because I like fenugreek, and my partner has GERD, so fenugreek is supposed to help with that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So our final dish that we chose as a side dish was the very simple Galen Garlicky Greens, which all you need for that recipe in game is, I believe, garlic. You need greens and garlic. So that's kind of interesting. And the picture that they have here, it looks more like stir-fry rice with hot peppers on top, which, you know, there's no mention of that in there. Also, why would you call it garlicky greens if you're cooking with rice? But that not being the point, I know that they recycle a lot of the images for the dishes, and the really fun thing is when you're running around, you can steal food out of dishes and stuff in game, but the pictures of the food don't always correspond with the recipe. So like you'll pick something up out of a bowl and then you'll know what it is, but the picture is the same for like all stews. All stews have the same icon in game, you know. All roast foods have the same kind of roast look. The only thing that really has a wide variety of images are the breads, which are kind of interesting. There are different styles of bread loaves throughout the game, so I don't know if that's just something they decided to expand and they just haven't expanded everything else, or do they even plan to expand anything else? I mean, food is a boost in game. It's very valuable if you're trying to not die while you're off doing quests and things, but it's not like an essential part of the story of the game, I guess, if that makes sense. So I don't know. So I guess like super detailed effort into the food is not that big of a deal. Anyway, so we made the Galen Garlicky Greens, and we bought, so the greens are whatever. So we bought spinach, and we bought some spinach for the garlicky greens. We clearly had garlic. I made my partner chop up actual garlic cloves instead of just using the pre-chopped garlic that we already had, which was a little bit of an argument in the kitchen. Always drama in the kitchen. But yeah, so we had garlic, we had the greens. I think I used a little bit of olive oil, and did I add something else to it? I don't think I did. I think it was just, yeah, it was just garlic, spinach, and a little bit of olive oil to saute in. We did talk about adding bacon. We did talk about adding bacon to the recipe. It's something we've made before, and we actually enjoy sauteed greens of several different varieties. And yeah, we add bacon during the holidays to make it super special. Instead of using oil, you fry your bacon up first until it's nice and crispy, and then you just throw your greens in, and then they wilt down into all the garlicky, greasy goodness. Nom nom. Anyway, so Galen is an area in Hammerfell. Hammerfell is a Red Guard area. The Red Guards are, I don't know how to put this politely. The Red Guards are the not white race in the game. They're actually kind of cool. I like the Red Guard a lot. I like to play them instead of some of the other races. I've unfortunately fallen in love with the Khajiit, so be prepared to see a lot of my baby Khajiiti. Anyway, the Red Guard, they are kind of, sort of, so what the game does is it just kind of like mashes cultures together, and I talk about that a lot when I'm doing the gameplay. Red Guard is one of these kind of mushed together, it's not African, which I kind of appreciate considering that they're the dark-skinned race of man in the game. They're the dark-skinned humans. So I really kind of appreciate that they didn't go like full bore, like Zulu African kind of thing. They didn't play into that trope. They do have kind of a Middle Eastern kind of Middle Eastern kind of biblical architecture aesthetic going on, and I kind of enjoy that. It does give them a little bit more to play around with. There is a little bit of kind of like Babylonian, Egyptian kind of art motify going on, so they do kind of work in like a little bit of the Egyptian thread in there. It works really well. I think it's a very pretty motif that they go for, and just like in general, like they wear the head scarves and they have the hair wraps. They do a lot of the tents. Daggerfall and the Red Guard are one of the races that have been in the game since Arena, which was all the way back in the day, back when like it was like, yeah, no, the graphics were terrible. But anyway, it was just a fighting game, I think. I don't even think it had any like role-playing purpose to it at all. So yeah, so it's kind of nice that they didn't go with like the stereotype that they could have gone with, even though they did try to kind of weave a little bit of it in. But the Red Guards are also one of the original races in the game. And so I guess by saying that they're like one of the oldest races in the game, I guess is kind of where I was going with that. So it's interesting that like they have so many different types of food attributed to them, much like the garlicky greens, which, again, what can we say about the Red Guard and their garlicky greens? What kind of greens are they eating? What's the significance of the greens? Is garlic like a big thing for them? Do they put garlic in everything, or is it just this one little dish? Is garlic like hard to come by, so this is a very special dish that we're eating with the garlic? Or is garlic like onions and you just throw it into everything for flavor like we do today? So these are all questions that I want to delve into a little bit more as we continue on with the Geek Eats. Again, I think from this video forward, when I do Elder Scroll cooking episodes, which I will be doing more of, I want to focus a little bit more heavily on the individual culture groups, as opposed to just kind of grabbing recipes that sounded A, easy to make, and B, I already had most of the ingredients for, which is kind of what this came down to. It's like Archeo food on a budget. I will say we had a good time doing this. My partner, bless them, dressed up for this with me. I tried to tie my hair up in a really bad hair scarf, mainly because my hair was gross and I was too lazy to do anything with it. So I tried to put it up in a scarf. It did not work. I have since looked up some tutorials on how to put a medieval style hair scarf on, so hopefully in the next couple of vids it'll look better. The other benefit to putting my hair back in a scarf was that my hair didn't get in the food. Yeah, that's kind of gross. But anyway, we had a good time dressing up. We had a good time acting goofy. We had a good time talking about different aspects of food. My partner has himself done quite a bit of research into the history of food, so it was kind of fun to have them there to just kind of bounce ideas back and forth from. And yeah, and we also have like a Q&A eating session at the end, where I try to pepper my partner with a bunch of questions and they very artfully don't answer any of them. It's fabulous. So I don't know, maybe as we go forward with this series I'll be able to invite some people over and we can have like a big fancy dinner, and I don't know, maybe I can have an actual food anthropologist come over and we can play the food anthropology game. But until such time as we have more funds in the coffers, that's not gonna happen. So if you like this video and you enjoy the concept and you like to see it develop further and you just kind of enjoy watching two geeks make food in the kitchen and then eat it, check us out on Patreon. Go support us there. Even the lowest level of support gets you access to all of our material a week before it goes live to the public. So, you know, there's that wonderful little benefit. And otherwise, just like and share us and hit the subscribe button and show us some love by letting everybody know that you like us. So let's get on to the incredibly weird and awkward cooking video. And I hope you guys enjoy all of the information that I have just crammed into your faces. And I hope you enjoy the delicious food, because it all turned out really well. The delicious food that we eat at the end. So the main course for today that I decided to do is Grape Glazed Bantam Guar, or Guar, G-U-A-R, screw you, that's how I'm pronouncing it. And we don't have Bantam Guar in this game of the real world. So what I had to do was look at what the game is calling Bantam Guar. And that's, if you kill one in the game and it drops meat, the meat it drops is poultry. So we looked at different poultry recipes for what we liked, and I decided to go with Cornish game hens, because what I did was research some medieval style cooking to kind of get an idea for what kind of ingredients would be good in this sort of a recipe. And there actually are several different types of fowl with grapes. It's a very popular dish, especially with Middle Eastern menus and that kind of a thing. So that also is why we're doing kind of more Middle Eastern thing, except the two of us are dressed more Viking, so don't even try to say that I did a poor job, because I know I did. But, so we got the 2 Cornish game hens. I have a recipe with some very interesting spices, and of course, delicious grapes, because this and the poultry are the only 2 ingredients that we are given any idea that we need in-game, or at least that I can find. There are some in-game recipes, and if there is one for this, let me know, and I'll try to remake this as per the game, but I couldn't find an in-game recipe for it. So we're going with this. And so, what we are going to do, first off, is we're going to watch my lovely assistant, sous chef. So, hi baby, I love you. Do you want a grape? No. I didn't think so.
No, I don't want a grape.
Anyway.
Surprised Iki isn't bugging the crap out of us.
We don't have tuna.
Ah, good.
Okay, so we're going to start cooking and see if we set the kitchen on fire. So, you can see my beautiful stove that I did not spend all day scrubbing and cleaning just for this video. Because my kitchen's always this clean and pristine. Don't laugh.
I'm trying to figure out what you're doing.
Pulling up the recipe. You can be animated, it's fine.
Gotcha.
Ah, no, I lost it. Here it is. Alright, so. Ba-ba-da-ba. So we do have a recipe to follow-ish. Again, we have modified it slightly because Bantam Guar does not exist in the real world. But, fortunately, grapes do. And so do a variety of other items that you use to actually make a recipe. Like, yes, I could just cook a bunch of chickens with grapes and it would probably be awful. But again, going back to the Polygon video about the Legend of Zelda and how, like, he went about those recipes in the absolute worst possible way, we're not going to do that. We're going to actually create food that can be eaten and not just food that is abusing ingredients. So, what we've got here is 2 lovely, and if you're not into meat, you should probably have turned this video off a while ago. But we do have 2 lovely Cornish game hens here that we are going to brown up. And if you see me looking down, it's because I have a recipe. So first things we're going to do is we're going to season the game hens with salt and pepper. And then we're going to heat the frying pan up and add a little bit of... Go ahead and season it.
Okay. Okay.
Season it, slave! Shouldn't say that.
Are we in a culture where there is slavery?
Yes, actually.
Okay. All right then.
Which is another thing I'm going to address. Not in this video.
Ah, gotcha.
Yes, slavery is very much a thing in Elder Scrolls.
It's not sticking, it's falling off. So I'm just putting a little
You rub
bit
it.
there.
Rub it in there. Massage.
Oh, yes.
This is gonna go on.
I know. I totally know that.
It's okay, we're not monetized, it's fine.
Yeah.
And I will probably drop the F-bomb at least once.
Not safe for children.
Yeah. These are not meant for children. Okay. So, how did I manage that? Really?
What's that?
Don't look at it.
Okay.
Cut it out. Now, the upside is I cook with gas, so we're using a real actual flame here. So there's that. And we're going to cook with olive oil because I don't know how old my bacon fat is. And it terrifies me.
It's actually pretty old.
Yeah.
Like several months old.
Yeah. Okay. So with that terrifying knowledge. So the key here is that we're going to sear the birds, which means we want a hot heat. We want a high heat on the cast iron. We're using cast iron, which if you play the game, you will notice that I point out several different casty irony looking objects in the game around the different cooking fires and such. So we have a well-seasoned pan. Add a little bit of oil. I won't lie, I don't usually use measuring instruments, which annoys more people than you would believe.
1 to 2 tablespoons is a decent amount in case people at home are cooking and don't know.
Speaking of other people who don't like my non-measurements.
I don't know what a dollop is.
Dollop. Okay, so now we're going to basically just brown these bad boys. And basically we're just kind of cooking them and loosening up the fat underneath the skin and kind of crisping the skin and just getting an initial sear on the chickens themselves. Well, they're not chickens, Cornish game hens themselves, because it makes it taste better. Maybe someday, if like people want to donate, I will go to the effort of buying medieval-ish looking cookware. But for now, you get my silicone tongs. You want to flip them over? You're so good at it.
I think you're really good at flipping them over. You're good at flipping the birds.
Right, I am. Oh, and just FYI, I brined these bad boys for about an hour and a half. I would have brined them overnight, but I forgot.
Just pure salt?
No. So when you brine something, I mean, you can do a salt brine, but it's a lot of salt. What I use is saltwater brine, which is basically like a half cup to a whole cup of salt dissolved in water, and then you just basically let your meat soak in it overnight.
That's what I was asking, but yes.
Oh, but you can also put things like wine and herbs and that kind of stuff into it. So you can have not salt brines. But you can also basically just pack it in salt.
Ah, yes.
That's what
is that technically called brine?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I know it's a way of like pre-preparing the meat.
I thought it was considered more of a rub.
Yeah. But it's kind of like a brine. It's just like a dry brine. I don't know.
All right.
I'm not a chef.
And apparently I have been dubbed sous chef, so obviously I should know. Therefore, anything I say must be true.
Fun fact. I have an actual relative who is an actual chef. She's probably going to be horrified by this video. This is what it is, man. This is what happens when you don't go to fancy chef school.
Nope.
You just guess. Alright, yes, thank you. Thank you, sous chef. Ow. Sorry.
I hold hot handles is what I do. That is the point of a sous chef.
I think technically you're supposed to be doing this.
I think you're right.
I think this is technically your job.
Alright.
Again, not a chef.
I am following your lead here because...
That is the course of fools. Okay. See, that's not even a tablespoon. Look at you and your dolloping. Oh, that's good. You did a good job.
That's about what I expect.
Okay, chopped onion. I'm too lazy to chop it myself. And I make him cook them. Because I'm a horrible girlfriend.
But they wouldn't not be nearly this big of a bulb, would they?
Wild onions can actually get pretty big, and also they've been cultivating, in the Middle East, has been cultivating onions for a very long time. They do a lot with onions.
Well, I know that India uses onion as basically the way we do gas when it comes to economics. So if the onion prices go up, yes.
And this is why he's on the show. For random facts that I would not have even thought.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's still some cooking that's going to happen.
Oh, okay. Then we're good.
Yes, we're just going to dump a bunch of ingredients into a pot. And magically, it's going to become food.
Well, that's how that works, right? I've seen Sims. And the game, actually.
Sad but true. So, next, we're going to keep our fire low because we are going to toss in our spices, and we're gonna toast our spices. And the reason we don't need any more oil.
Okay.
And the reason you're toasting the spices is because it releases the aromatics in the spices, which is actually pretty good because one of our spices is very old. So, what do we got? We got some
fennel.
We have fennel because I don't have any anise or anise. I don't know. Say it however you want. And then I also have some Nigella, which is also, I am told, black caraway.
It's not quite, but it's in the same family, and it tastes about the same. Tastes close.
And I have fenugreek because I think flavor-wise it's going to taste really good with what we're cooking. And so this is actually going to develop our flavor profile. Woo. But, see, it does come out when you toast it. Smell it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you do smell it, yeah.
And fenugreek has to either be soaked or toasted because it's... I've never had anything with a shell that hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
We're a little new to fenugreek. We're not really used to using it, so this is a...
But, fun fact, fenugreek is supposedly really good for people with GERD. So we try to work it into as many recipes as we can, but it also happens to be a major component for most curries. Mm-hmm. This is not a curry, but fenugreek does get used quite a bit in Middle Eastern dishes, and was, I believe, a biblical herb. This will all be important later when I break everything down for you. Right now, there's only so much I can do without, like...
Why we're talking about biblical things.
Destroying my food that I still have to eat. Mm-hmm. Alright, now...
Yeah, that smells really good.
Yeah, so you can smell it.
Yeah.
Alright, so now...
You're
one of the most ancient cooking utensils, and I'm not even being facetious, not this one particularly, though this one has been passed down my family, so this was my father's, and now it is mine. And sometimes I actually use it to cook. But the mortar and pestle are some of the oldest cooking utensils that we find in a lot of archaeological sites. We find them huge, so they were being used, so the concept of the mortar and pestle was being used for grinding grains, and we can also find them this size or smaller because they're being used to grind herbs, which is what I'm getting ready to do. So, now that's the next trick.
getting it all out and into there.
You know what, you just go.
I'll do that. I'm the sous chef. I'm perfect. That's how this works.
Actually, having you grind that would be pretty good.
I've never really ground things with a mortar and pestle, to be honest.
Oh, well, there's a trick.
Okay, yeah. Just show me the trick, and then once... I'm sure I will automatically pick it up.
Okay,
No.
I have a trick.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a real trick.
It may be cheating, and anybody who would naturally use it go, you're doing this the hardest way possible.
Well, you almost got the Nigella out of there. We'll come back to this pan later, and we're actually going to leave all of the delicious flavors in there. I mean, yeah, that's basically what you do.
Basically it. Okay.
Now, what I do to get a little bit more grinding in there, because this is marble, so it is smooth.
Yes.
I throw in a pinch of salt, the big salt.
The big salt, gotcha.
Because actually, one of the tricks was you would add sand.
Oh.
And I don't want our teeth to erode.
Yeah, they'll find people that most
but you
people.
don't need more than like a couple good pinches.
Other than prior to sugar, you'd find people with the only tooth problems they had was their teeth ground down from the sand they put in there.
Fun fact: that's where the concept of double rows of teeth come from. Because once you wear down the outer.
So that's what they're talking about with those damn giants.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, that's what normal people are talking about.
I have to overhear them being stupid.
He suffers so.
I do.
See, you can feel it, can't you?
Yeah, no, it definitely creates a grit.
That's because salt crystals are square. They are cubes, so they have sharp angles. This is what it's like cooking with people who are nerds. So, go ahead and scrape all that in.
To the pan?
Yep.
With the blades?
It said crush coarsely, so yes. Just go ahead
it's very coarsely crushed, I can tell you that much.
Use your fingers. Or that, whatever.
I'm not an animal.
Aren't you though?
I kind of guessed, actually.
So, maybe you can 3D print me some cool looking medieval style things.
Maybe.
Like measuring cups.
Yeah.
Things that don't necessarily have to go into heat. Okay. So, Next, we're going to build a simmering broth. We're not boiling these so much as we're kind of slow cooking it, and so we require some kind of juice in it to boil it with. So first, we need about a half cup. No, we need, a half cup of sake. Is that okay?
Okay.
Nope, that's fine. There you go.
Half and half.
No, that'll taste terrible.
Oh, really?
Oh, God, no. The flavor profiles will be horrible.
One for me and one for my homies.
Your homies being these birds?
Yes.
Now you're cooking with sake. Alright, go ahead and turn the flame on that.
Alright.
I'll be right back.
Keep it low.
Yes.
Oh, wow, that smells good. Makes me want some sake now.
Oh, it's your sake, I guess you can. It does smell good.
It really does.
Smelling sake.
Yeah, no. It's a good quality. We were out of cooking sake, so I had to sacrifice some of mine. It's like $3 versus $12. Yeah.
Smells good.
It does. Smells great.
Taste good. Oh, wait, that's way too low, though.
Oh, you said low. That's medium-ish.
There we go. Alright. So this is where the magic happens. For 20 minutes. I'm not filming all of that.
Are you sure? Otherwise, we could show a video of paint drying.
I think this would be a little bit more interesting than paint drying. Shit's moving.
That's true.
But what I am going to do... These are all the same size.
Are we going to work on the greens?
We are!
Yay!
As I single the hair off of my arm because I'm a genius. Of course not.
It's never the right one first time.
Alright. I don't know the song.
I cut down trees, I eat my lunch, I go to the lavatory.
Really?
On Wednesdays I go shopping and have budded scones for tea.
Chops down trees, you wear 5 heels. Anyway, that's all I remember.
Suspenders and a bra.
So the next thing we're going to make is called Galen Garlicky Greens. And Galen, that I just learned, is one of the kingdoms in Hammerfell. Hammerfell being part of the Redguard area. The Redguard having kind of a Middle Eastern flavor to them, which works really well considering what we're making. So the Galen Garlicky Greens are very simple to make because everything you need to know about what's in them is in the name. Garlic and greens. Now, because we're cooking out of kind of the Middle Eastern area, garlic skin, we're going to use some good old-fashioned butter instead of olive oil because we're mimicking ghee, which I don't have.
It's not actually butter anymore.
It's butter today.
It's plant butter.
Doesn't matter, it's butter.
Right.
And of course we have our beautiful garlic cloves, and we have a lot of them because it wasn't like greens with garlic, it was garlic with greens. Handing them off to my beautiful sous chef. What do you want?
To chop them up? Do you want me to chop them
Yes,
up? Or
I
are
want
you
you to chop
continuing to discuss things? What? I mean, they can watch me chop it up, but it's pretty boring.
I see you chopping it up back there.
There we go. Okay. Alright.
And then I also have... So the thing is that greens isn't exactly... Like, everything in the game is greens. And there's two kinds of greens. There's greens, and then there's bitter greens. And there's really no distinguishing anything about them. The pictures in greens look like heads of lettuce or cabbage. And I could have used cabbage, I guess, but I don't like cabbage, so I decided to go with spinach. These are not bitter. The recipe does not call for bitter greens. It just calls for greens. So we're going to saute some spinach with some garlic, and that's going to be our side dish to our delicious Grape Glazed Guar. So because we are having this as a side dish with our birds, with our gar, I'm going to leave the seasonings that are left over from when I was toasting it earlier because it'll help marry the flavors together. And I'm going to use a generous amount of butter and get that going. And check on my delicious little birdie birds. Doesn't that just smell nice?
Yeah, it does. It smells amazing.
And then as the butter and or ghee melts, it's going to kind of loosely deglaze the pan a little and pick up the residual oils and flavonoids or whatever you want to call them. I don't know. What is a flavonoid?
I don't know. It's not something we really discuss in chemistry.
I don't think it's real. I think it's one of those things that health people tell you.
Right. I'm pretty sure it's a compound family. How healthy it is, I don't know.
So I'm also at this time browning butter. And what that does is kind of, I don't really know. I think it does something like caramelizing the fat that's in the butter. And then once sous chef is done with the garlic.
How does that look?
Perfect.
All right.
I didn't know if you wanted me to use your real name or not.
I think my first name's out there.
I don't talk about you that often.
No, I meant on the internet.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean,
I try to keep my last name.
my partner also has a YouTube channel that is a lot older than mine and does a lot of politics on it, so.
And my hands smell all garlicky.
You say it like it's a bad thing. Alright, so we are...
The cat's making it.
Oh no. Speaking of which.
Oh yeah, that smells good.
So garlic, if you don't know, is also another one of those things that can set off people who have GERD. So
gotta cook the crap out of it.
You gotta cook the crap out of it.
Without letting it get burnt.
Without burning it, yeah.
Which I will leave accidentally and not pay attention while I'm doing something else, and it will burn usually.
I don't understand how you walk away while you're cooking.
Well, I mean, not walking away. I'm preparing something else or reading the recipe because I didn't prep it. Because that would require too much work in the beginning.
These cooking episodes are going to be rough for you, aren't they?
No, actually, they work very well. For a cooking episode, it might get me in the practice of things, actually.
Alright, so, next thing we do with garlicky greens is greens wilt. You usually don't even need that much heat. I'm going to leave it on low, like really for real low. And I'm just going to do these by the handful or two because they will cook down and they'll release their delicious greeny goodness, but they'll also create space as they cook down.
Another alternative you can do with this, bacon. Bacon is very good.
I wasn't sure if there was bacon in the garlicky greens because, to be honest, the image in the game looks like cheese fondue. It's yellow.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like, that is...
Well, I mean, that's like more of an artichoke.
Ooh, but garlicky artichoke?
Garlicky artichoke dip, similar... Well, I mean, you got the artichoke.
I didn't get that for those.
No, but we could do some later.
Maybe.
And if it turns out to be very good, kind of like to do an experiment with it, then we'll...
Oh no, you escaped. Okay, so these are basically just cooking down with a tiny bit of residual heat at this point, and they smell buttery and they smell garlicky, and I don't really know what else you need for garlicky greens. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah, the flavors are mixing very well together.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like you're smelling the other herbs that were in here earlier, because you see how it's clean.
Yeah, they pick it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So the.
Well, I wasn't even talking about that. I mean, it's the combo of the smells from the sake boiling. And stuff like
yeah,
that,
the sake. See, you're supposed to use white wine, but.
Yeah. Sake's better.
Hey, I prefer sake.
Mm-hmm.
I realize I'm mixing cultures here because sake would probably most closely be related to the Dunedain race, the Angry Smurfs, aka the Dark Elves, because they are the culture group that has the most Japanese-style Asian influence in their culture design. So the sake would probably be closely related to them Interestingly, they are also where the korma mines appear to be. And so...
But we're eating this, so...
We're not eating korma eggs.
We're eating this.
Yeah.
They're
well, there's no sake in this.
No, but there's sake in the other thing.
Yeah, there's sake in the other thing.
Which
and I need to...
also is culturally wrong.
No, this one's fine.
Yeah, no, that's perfect on...
The garlic and the ghee and the greens. It's fine, it's fine. Okay, so we're back. And now we get to add the sweet to our savory, which I personally think onions work really well with sweet in general. So yes, and so we're going to add our honey.
Which is crystallized because it's old, but it's very traditional the way that you're doing there.
And then we add it to the broth. Though I guess you could smear it all over the birds. But yeah, just there you go. It'll melt.
Yeah, no, it totally will.
It'll melt. That's what honey does. And then we also add the other main and only other mentioned ingredient, the Jasmina. People are going to come for me, and I'm going to get canceled over this. But anyway, we add the delicious grapes. And you add them whole, and the thing I like about this recipe is you kind of know it's done when the grapes pop. And then we cover it with the lid we don't have.
Yeah, we'll use the mid. Wait, no, we do have
we do have a lid for that.
Yeah, for this one. Pull out of the trash. We're dumpster divers. What do you want? It's pretty awesome. There's nothing wrong with dumpster diving. We saved lots of money.
That's true. Actually.
And things in the environment by not trashing stuff.
We did get an entire set of cookware, this being part of it, out of the trash. So yeah, I don't really have a lot of room to talk. But anyway, so now what we do, I think I'll give this another stir right before we leave it, but now I let this cook for another 15 minutes, and I don't have anything else entertaining to show you while it cooks, so I'm probably gonna go eat some of my cheese and
dance a jig.
Anyway. Alright, so we are back, and I'll move the pot over so you guys can see this deliciousness, but give me just a second with this lid. Oh, babe, you should smell this.
Oh, I can smell it here.
So our Bantam Guar has cooked up nicely. Let's see if you can see that. Has cooked up nicely, and as you can see, the grapes have maintained most of their shape, which is my favorite part because they kind of pop when you eat them now. So what I'm going to do now is transfer these to the cutting board so they can rest for a minute while I make the sauce that's going to go on top of them when we eat them. Let me put that back.
Oh, okay. I thought I put them nearby so they look good. Is the sauce with the grape stuff?
It's delicious.
Alright guys, rest, take it easy, just chill.
Don't freak out or nothing.
No.
Alright, so the next step to this is, see, all I've got left in here is the wine and the herbs, onions, everything but the chicken. Excuse me, the guar. I feel like guar has a W in it.
Well, G-U-R, yeah, no, the depends on how you pronounce it.
I guess.
Because I believe, like, the Indian long-snouted...
A guar is a thing, isn't it?
I think so. I can look it up.
I'm actually going to turn the heat up a little bit.
Because a bantam is one of the breeds of chicken, so... I know that. And the term is used in boxing. It's called a bantamweight. It's one of the smaller weight classes of boxing.
They just called you a chicken weight.
Yes.
Why do you know that?
I was reading a comic book.
You don't even like boxing.
No, I think it's a horrible sport. But I know that,
Bantamweight, yeah. No.
Yeah.
Mom likes boxing. She talks about that every now and then. That and the featherweights. I think they call them featherweights now. I don't know.
Guar or long bean, with botanical name, is an annual legume and a source of guar gum. It is pronounced that. Oh, let me see
so
the
it is
pronunciation.
Guar. All right. So it's Bantam Guar. See the things we figure out on this show.
I thought I knew that word.
Now see, I've got your ringtone in my head now.
What?
Your ringtone.
That's not how my ringtone goes.
Yes, it is. It's exactly how your ringtone goes.
Okay. In your head, in your head.
Don't you sass me. I'll go eat my Bantam Guar all by my lonesome. And you'll get none of these grapey goodnesses.
Guar.
It is pronounced guar.
Alright, so it's Bantam Guar.
Unless it's in a different language.
Well, I mean, it's...
Yes.
Alright, this is really hot, so, like, let it cool down.
Okay.
But definitely when it's cool, try that grape. It will change your life. Alright, so...
It's a fish. Ah, it's like a long snout. There's a garfish.
Gar must be long. So, what we're going to do now is chop these birds up, cut them in half. We'll cut one of them in half. I don't think we really need to butcher both of them. And I think if you use the bamboo, I think you should be fine. The worst it's going to do is sear it.
Yes, and there is a gar alligator or crocodile. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't read it. It said alligator, but I thought it was...
Do you want to do this?
Rocks. Sure.
Oh, that's going to be hot still.
Very pleasant.
Alright, well,
Do I cut it directly in half?
yeah, so the goal is to kind of just chop it down. And honestly, I think if you flip it over on its back, it'll be a little easier because instead of going directly through the spine, you'll be going through the chest.
Going to get it where it's vulnerable.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
It gives a little bit easier because that's all cartilage right there.
Now, if we had a calf's head, we can make mock turtle soup. That's what mock turtle soup is. A calf's head cut in half. Yeah, that's very crunchy. All right.
It's funny what grosses me out.
I know, right?
This doesn't bother me. Calf's head, that bothers me. I don't even like, it's not even like, oh, the baby cow.
No.
So, what I have here already pre-made is some quote-unquote salt rice, which interestingly enough, in the game, there is both salt rice and regular rice. So, fun factoid, salt rice is called that because it's grown in the salt marshes of Morrowind. But, no, I'm plating you up pretty. God damn it, work with me!
Be pretty!
But there is an actual genetic line of rice in the real world that was developed specifically to grow in seawater. Because so much seawater is invading the areas where the, global climate change, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So basically, we do have a few strains of rice that grow in salt water, which would effectively make them salt rice. So, though salt rice was not a real thing in the real world,
now is.
It now is, as of 2017. So, people who don't like genetically modified food,
don't watch this video?
Yeah.
Too late.
Salt rice is going to be the thing that saves us in the future because...
Yeah, rising sea levels.
Yeah, it's going to be necessary. Anyway. I don't got anything for mackerel cats. It would have been easier to use the tongs.
That's true.
Alright, you got those?
I think so. Do you want more?
No, I'm fine. And then...
Should I leave any? Should we just eat it all tonight since it...
The greens?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
They
don't keep very well.
They don't reheat.
No, they don't. They go nasty soon.
You can only wilt things so many times.
Right. A good alternative to this, by the way, is do a blanching and with greens, and then put like a miso and sake sauce on it. It's really really
Totally
good.
different recipe.
Yes, but it's a good way to blanch greens.
So, finishing touch.
We got to get that.
Got that thickened up.
Yeah.
It smells good too. And the nice thing is all of those juices are going to soak into the rice.
There you go.
Trade.
Should I take that off the table?
Yeah.
Get some silverware. What would you like to drink? Get down. Now.
I'm going to have cherry pomegranate. Hey, so editing me. I can't find the video of us sitting down to eat. Apparently, my camera ate it. But this video was already, like, it's over an hour as is. Anyway, I still need to add credits and stuff. So what I'm going to do is, if I find the video, which I will be digging for, I'll put us eating the food up as its own vid. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoyed our witty banter. Trust me, the food turned out fantastic. And yeah. Next video, I will be more on it with the devouring part. And if this really is going to take an hour to cook and an hour to eat, then, yeah, we may just start doing these in 2 parts. Which is good, because we're only going to do, like, 1 a month. So, enjoy! And again, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell button. And if you really liked us, go ahead and head on over to Patreon. If you become a member, you get access to all of our material a week before everyone else, and whatever you choose to do, thank you, and see you guys next time.